Assalamu alaikum, dear BCom Part 1. Hopefully, you all would be quite fine, doing well, and you might have gone through your first presentation. That was our last topic, which was left incomplete before our classes were cut off. Now, I have started with the revision, and obviously, we'll start from the very first topic, that is the basic topic, and that topic is of sentence. So in this very presentation I have talked about all the concepts which are relevant to sentence. So in this one we'll talk about the parts of the sentence, we'll talk about the types of the sentence according to meaning and structure. So let's start with it. Okay, before we move on, please remember that from now onwards, as we are in our revision process, so you need to prepare all the things side by side. Please don't miss out anything. Hopefully whatever has been missed will be recovered and you will be able to properly understand the things. So our very first topic is that of the sentence, and the basic thing is that you need to know what are the important things or what are the parts which are quite important with relevance to the sentence, and these are subject, predicate, clause, and phrase. Sentence and its part. So very first thing you need to understand about the sentence is that it's quite different from its other parts. For example, sometimes students they might get confused about the difference between sentence and clause. So for that purpose you need to understand the sentence properly, and then you'll be able to differentiate between both the things properly. So by a sentence we mean a statement that is a meaningful combination of words. By a meaningful combination we mean that a combination which is right in its order and which conveys a proper meaning. And then the sentence, a good sentence, a complete or correct sentence should have its own subject and predicate, and then the sentence again should convey a complete sense. So these are a sort of conditions which are important, which should be fulfilled by a sentence. And here we are going to talk about the parts of a sentence. So very first thing which you need to know is that of a subject. By a subject part of the sentence we mean a naming part. Naming part means the main entity. It can be a place, it can be a person, it can be a thing, it can be anything which is being talked about in the sentence. So the part of the sentence which names something about which the whole sentence talks about is your subject. Predicate. Now your predicate is the telling part. This is the part which is going to give us information regarding subject. So simply speaking you can say that both the parts of the sentence are interconnected. The subject is the more important one because this is the main entity which is being talked about in the sentence. The next thing that you should know, that is a phrase. Now phrase is the combination of words, but you need to remember, although it's a combination of words, but it doesn't have its own subject and predicate. It doesn't have its own subject and verb, and although it is going to convey some sense, but it's not able to convey a complete sense. Then the next thing which I talked about initially is clause. Clause is part of a larger sentence, although it is similar in the sense that it has also got its own subject and predicate. But further on, when we are going to move on, you'll understand that what's the difference between a sentence and a clause. So for till now, you need to understand that sentence is a larger or an umbrella term, and clause is part of a larger sentence. Okay, let's see an example so that you can differentiate or you can identify the different parts of a sentence. So here I have written an example for you, that is, the dresses are hanged properly in the cupboard. So let's identify the parts, and you see dresses, this is a naming part of the sentence, so this is your subject part. Are hanged properly in the cupboard. Now this complete thing is your predicate, and in the predicate again we have got multiple things, and as for now we are talking about the phrase, so you need to understand that in the cupboard is your phrase. It's giving some sense but not a complete sense, and it doesn't have its own subject and predicate. And then about clause, because this is something which needs to be talked about in detail, so we'll discuss this one later on. Okay, and then as we know that we have got two types or two uh, wider things regarding the types of sentences, or we have got two wider fields. So firstly we are going to talk about the types of sentence according to meaning. Like according to meaning, we have got 5 types of sentences. The very first one is known to be declarative or assertive sentences. Then we have got interrogative sentences, imperative sentences, optative sentences, and exclamatory sentences. What do we mean by declaratives or assertive sentences? Now, these sentences are simply the statements. So, here you may talk about something or you may negate something, but this is simply a statement. So, you are talking about some fact that is known to be your declarative or assertive sentences. So, for example, the sky is blue. Now, this is the simple statement. You are talking about a truth, you are talking about a phenomena. So, this is your declarative sentence. The next thing is interrogative sentences. Interrogative sentences are the questioning statements. So, these are the statements which ask some question. For example, how are you, or where are you going, or things like that. The next category is that of imperative sentences. Imperative sentences are those statements which denote requests, commands, orders, suggestions, persuasions, etc. For example, please work hard. Now, this is a sentence which is basically a request. Here, you need to understand the difference between request and command. Most of the time, students might get confused that what is the difference between the two. Now, you see, there is just the difference of a level of formality, or you can say that it's just the difference of politeness. So, while we are going to request someone, we are going to be more polite, and when it's about an order or command, we are going to be more direct, more authoritative, and less soft, less polite. So this is basically the difference between a request and command. So here the sentence which has been given, this is a request. The next category is that of optative sentences. Now, the optative sentences are the statements which denote wishes, curses, and prayers. So these wider categories are going to come under the category of optative sentences. For example, may you succeed. Now, this sentence is an optative one. The last one, which comes under the types according to meaning, is exclamatory sentences. And as you know very well, these are the statements which talk about or which express strong feelings of happiness, sorrow, or surprise. For example, hurrah, we have passed the entry test. This is your exclamatory sentence. So by now we are done with 5 types of sentences according to meaning. And as I have told you that we have got 2 wider categories. So we talked about the types of sentences according to meaning. By types of sentences according to meaning, we mean that what sort of meaning is being conveyed by a particular statement. Now our next category is that of types of sentences according to structure or construction, that how a particular sentence has been formulated, how it has been constructed, or what is the structure of a particular sentence. So according to this category, we have got 3 types of sentences. The first one is known to be simple sentences. Then we have got compound sentences, and the last category is that of complex sentences. Okay, let's see what do we mean by simple sentences. Simple sentences are those sentences which have got a single clause and there is one subject and predicate. It means that a simple sentence is the one which talks about only one subject and it has got just one predicate. For example, I am done with my work. Now, this is the very simple sentence. You can see by structure There is no complexity in this particular sentence. The second category is that of compound sentences. By compound sentences, we mean a sentence, by compound sentence, we mean a sentence that consists of two or more than two independent clauses. So, when the clauses of equal rank, when the clauses of independent rank are joined together with the help of a coordinating conjunction, that sentence is known to be a compound sentence. So an example is given for you. For example, I like black color and my friend likes blue. Now, I like black color is one sentence, is one clause. My friend likes blue is another clause, and these two clauses has been joined together. These two clauses of independent rank have been joined together with the help of a coordinating conjunction, and they have made a compound sentence. The last thing regarding this types according to structure is complex sentences. So by a complex sentence, we mean a sentence which carries almost at least one independent and one dependent clause. So there can be more dependent clauses, but at least one independent clause must be there. So the example is also given for you. For example, he was watching TV when I reached home. So this basically, now if you look, sorry, there's a spelling mistake in watching, so you can rectify that. He was watching TV. Now this is your independent clause, and when I reached home, this is your dependent clause. And what's the difference between independent and dependent clause? An independent clause is equal to a sentence. It's equal to a sentence, like it can convey a complete meaning. For example, if we are going to remove the part when I reached home, even then he was watching TV can convey a complete meaning. But when we are going to write both of them together, you see he was watching TV is conveying the complete sense. But if I just look at the part when I reached home, I will be expecting something else, or my listener would be expecting something else. When I say when I reached home, the person would expect some other part of information from me. So it means that this part of the sentence is unable to convey its meaning by itself. Although it has got its own subject, it has got its own predicate, but it's unable to convey the complete meaning. So here, an independent clause, he was watching TV, have been combined with a dependent clause, that is when I reached home, and these two have made a complex sentence. Okay, we are done with the topic. Hopefully you are okay with it. Hopefully you have understood it, although we have revised it multiple times, but I didn't want to miss it out while I've started with the revision. So what's the task assigned? You'll go for all the definition. Please write them down. Please write them properly along with one example for each concept, and don't write it with closed eyes. You are supposed to learn it because it might be a question which you have to do necessarily in your paper. The next thing, you'll go for your one word substitution. 8 words have been given over here on this slide. So these are on your page number 537. So you'll go for these 8 words, and words are given. You'll go for the description. Please learn and write and send it back to me, and I'll be giving my feedback on that. Okay, are there any confusions? If you want to ask anything, you can write your questions, you can write your points and send that back to me, and I'll be inshallah telling you, or I'll be answering you things. The students who have worked on previous assignment and they have sent those to me, I have already answered them. I have told you about the sentences, but a lot of students are there who are still undone. Please send your assignments. Please work side by side. Don't pile up things. It will be difficult for you then to understand things at the end of the day. And if you have got anything to ask, you are most welcome. You can come and ask. Thank you so much. Allah Hafiz.